All right. So we are live now. All right. Welcome everybody to the episode today at Sales and Onboarding. I'm Arshi. I'm your host for today and the founder's office at RevRag. Over the past 10 episodes, we've built a space that kind of goes beyond jargon. We don't just talk about banking and fintech, we unpack what it really takes to design customer journeys that convert and where AI drives real outcomes. Today, we will be taking a deeper look at what it means to build digital journeys that operate at scale and do so consistently across different financial products. So, we are zooming into how real customer journeys are built, especially in institutions where millions of customers are onboarded daily. For this special episode, joining us today is Debarshi Roy. He is the head of products at Credit Saison India, one of the most active NBFCs with a wide footprint across multiple financial products. Now, Credit Saison started long back, but their Indian operations started late in 2018, and Debashi was one of the first builders of their products in India. So, there's a lot of expertise that we have with us today. Devashi owns the digital and tech roadmap for products under him, spanning from onboarding, collections, servicing, and customer support. So, thanks a lot, Devashi, for coming here today. We are super glad that you joined us.
Yeah, thank you, Arushi. Thank you, Ashutosh, for having me over in your podcast. I am hoping to have a very enlightening discussion today with both of you.
Absolutely. And the second guest who will be accompanying Devarshi today is Ashutosh. He's the co founder and CEO at RevRag. And he's been at the forefront of building AI driven onboarding solutions for BFSI, FinTech, and InsurTech. Thanks a lot, Ashutosh, for joining us today.
No, no, my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me today, and uh, thanks for joining us, Debrishi. Looking forward to the discussion.
So, to kind of kickstart the episode today, our main goal would be to understand how a product manager builds a product from scratch, especially when they are scaling and there are millions of customers, everything at scale. And we would also talk about how AI could be integrated in the flows without disrupting the customer's experience across different channels. So let's start by understanding from the fundamentals. This question is for you, Devashi. We would want to know a bit about your background, a bit about your context, and the fact that you worked across multiple products and you're now leading the digital experiences at a high scale lending institution. What shaped the way you think about financial products and financial services?
Okay, so I think Arushi, I have about 15 years of experience. Probably out of that, about 12 years would be in product management. So I my financial product management experience will be about 8 to 10 years sort of thing, and some part of it was pure play data, and then I also have been working with Credit Saison from the start, right? Now, how I think of it, since
Yes.
we are talking mainly about the financial products that you asked for, right? So, when I started building the financial core of financial product around 2017, 2018, how the even the industry was taking shape was that there were fintechs and then there were banks, right? The traditional players like the NBFCs, the banks. So who were supposedly the non-fintechs. But I think over time, the distinction is blurring. Right? The fintechs were more tech savvy, catering to the younger crowd, bringing in people to the financial inclusion process where who were not targeted. But the moment it started growing, I think the traditional players also became very active, and they are either working alongside the fintechs. They're building their own digital code, and now that has blurred to a very big extent, right? So that now what has happened is, all of them have are actually catering to the generation that is technically very sound. And also the government has also what they have done is made those financial processes very made it available to everyone through digitizing a lot of data on set. So that is how I think it has come. So if you think about financial product, right? So in the fintech domain, probably there are 4 5 things that we look at from the product perspective. The first thing is that the customer centricity part. We have to start from the basics, that what is the problem that we are going to solve. Is there gap in the market that we identify while looking around, or that's the idea that get stuck, and we start looking out for that idea, and then we go ahead and start validating whether that idea is fine, right? So that is the first thing. The second thing is that from the digital perspective, it is always the technology interface that works, right? So basically there is the technology, data, and risk management in the financial sector, actually, which plays a very crucial role whether I'm going to be successful. So it looks at and in means even around 2017 2018 time period, it has come to a point that the statistical models, the machine learning models, the big data, the cloud computing, of all those things was coming together very fast, and till now it is very active. And in how we scale up our systems, and then there's a risk angle to it. Can we automate the risk pieces to build the with sufficient technology? This is the third thing. The second thing, the third thing that happens is the moment we start looking at that idea, use our technology to build out a certain sort of MVP, we look at the scalability angle immediately. So if a product is a product worth going after, and if and see if we can scale this up. And how do we scale this up? There are multiple angles to scale it up. So the scalability angle comes into the picture to build it. And I think as a in this sector, this has been the area of everyone playing, that what is the scale that we can reach. And then we go ahead and look at multiple distribution channels, like is it can we open up a mobile app? Can we go to the online platforms? Can we look at feet on street sort of processes to get our data? And in this space, I think one thing is very important. It is not like any other area like e-commerce, because this is a very regulated space. So the moment we tell that we are doing something with money, RBI, a lot of those government directives comes into the picture. So regulatory compliance and ethics are a must in this area of work. So that is how also when we started building out the financial products, we took care of each of these parts, and that is how we are building. And even if when someone comes and builds something new, they have to take care of these angles, definitely. Yeah, Arshi.
Thanks for those pointers. I mean, a lot of context I can see there. So let's do one thing. Let's try to break down each of these pointers and go in depth into them. So, Debarshi, when you talk about scaling, right? I mean, of course, there are a lot of nuances that come into it, a lot of areas that you have to take care of when you're building something from scratch. So, from your perspective, what does building a journey from scratch look like, and what does it involve? If we go around the fundamentals again, where do you begin? If you had to pick items one by one, is it tech, user insight, internal systems, or something else? If we go in a sequence according
No,
to
so
your
I
perspective.
think let me put it like this again, right? So as a product builder or a product person, we always look at tech as a enabler of a system, right? So tech
Right.
is probably the solution to a problem statement that we look at. So tech comes second. We might even go and build something if we see that there are available tools and it doesn't even need a tech, right? So something like this might also come in. So I think that is the part. But how a product is built is the fundamentals remain same across all domains, whether it is a financial domain or any other domain. the fundamentals remain the same. We start with a very nascent idea, or probably an idea that we think there's a gap in the market. Now that is just an
Right.
idea, and that might I might what feel think that this is the idea, but it not been might not be correct. Right? So what we do is we go and validate idea. That is what we call a viability check. Like this might be a user research, interviewing people, doing secondary research, a primary research, come back with the numbers, and then we see if the numbers match up. And probably at this point of time, it is not only the person who has the idea, but probably a associated ecosystem, a little bit of extended ecosystem has to come into the picture to avoid that bias. So once that is done, and looking at the data and all, we figure out, okay, there is actually a scope. Then it goes to what we call as the MVP phase, right? That what we call as a
Okay.
minimum viable product. So a minimum viable product is a very lean build, is what we think, right? It just tests the basic of what the idea is, and if if it is a very small piece that I want to build the core of it, and we test it out, saying that okay, this is working or not working. So if it is working, then we go and build the next pieces, right? So there it comes. If we say that okay, the MVP is fine, then it comes to a full-fledged SDLC cycle, what we call as a software development life cycle, right? I'm talking mainly from the software products perspective. There might be other products also, right? But from the
Yeah.
software product perspective, we go get into SDLC cycle. That is where we bring out our core capabilities. Whether we are implementing a tech, whether we think that is a new technology, whether it is AI, whether we think a basic old means the original stack will work, all those things comes into the picture, and then we put up measurable goals, we draw out the scope, we hand this over, we put clear milestones, and then it goes into a sort of execution heavy. So till the time probably the strategy guys were working, but then it becomes the execution led execution guys who comes into the picture and does the execution and gives out those products. And then what it happens is that there is basically a full launch, a continuous improvement, a feedback received, and all the data, and then it goes into a sort of loop where feedbacks are received, it goes into the product improvement, we look at the matrices again, and we come back and do the product. So from a product perspective and building from scratch, I think that is how it works. The associated things that we spoke about, right? That the tech, what is there a AI, is there any other tool? All those are enablers, is what we think. But it goes into
Mhm.
this process to build something really good. Yeah, I see.
Makes sense. So tech acts as an enabler, and to summarize what you just said, first, of course, the idea is validated, and then an MVP is built, and then things are tested, what works and what doesn't work, and that's how you execute it, and that's how it goes, right?
Yeah.
So taking this as the base, let's say if I want to ask, if we bring into the picture specific products, let's say secured versus unsecured loans,
Yeah.
what lens would you use here? When you are again um, building these from scratch from this perspective, how different would it be for these two products?
Okay, so I think Arushi, by secured products, it is what we mean is a asset or a loan that is backed by a asset, right? So it might be I want to take a loan against a machinery, or I want to take a loan against a house. So that loan is actually backed by a asset, and if the loan can't be repaid, then probably the asset is taken over, right? So that is one. And contrary to that, I think in unsecured loans, it is more about figuring out giving a loan without a asset backing, right? So there are this is the two fundamental differences in these two type of products. Now, I think there are two. If I look at the journeys of both of them, right? So there are two fundamental difference. One is in the fulfillment journey, right? So
Right.
how do we collect the data, how do we collect documents, how do we validate the information? It is a number of times we might have to do a to and fro with the data, with the customer, and then we go ahead and disburse the loan. This is the fulfillment part, and second is the underwriting part, right? So underwriting part is the techniques are very different. In as secured and the unsecured loans, the data points that are taken into consideration are very different. So this is how there are two fundamental journeys. But if I look at a little bit of depth in that, right? So in unsecured loans, these are anyway marked by are relied on credit score, and probably these uses digitized data in a very big way. So the government agencies have already provided a lot of data, consented data, to the lenders to use to underwrite those loans, and those are being used in a big way. Even the banking data, even something like a pen data, pen information, as some sort of Aadhaar, masked Aadhaar information, all those things are provided to do it. Now, one thing is that, and one point about unsecured loan is that it is available to a broader set of individuals, because everyone might not even have a asset. Right? So they are available to a broader set of individuals, but the risk of this is high. So the interest rates are generally higher than a secured asset, and also the loan amounts are a little bit lower there. So these are the fundamental differences. But in this, what has happened is, the because of this availability of this information, and uh, organizations have figured out a lot of AI systems to give 5 minutes loans. Right? So basically, there is the ML model, the statistical model, and ML models are also probably supervised models that comes into the picture, which have been able to automate those journeys by and large. So not only fintechs, but a lot of banks and traditional players are also using the similar method of giving out loans. So that is what has happened yet. But now what has happened is the domain or the mode has moved from just giving a 5 minute loan to probably staying with the customer throughout the customer's life cycle. So basically, it is like, uh, when does the customer need a financial support? This organization is available with the customer. So the mode has moved there, accessing the customer, staying with the customer, sort of thing, versus a secured sort of loan, where which has a collateral requirement apart from the credit score, right? So secured loans uh, are good in the sense that they are, for even for the customers, is that they are lower in rates because they are backed by asset, so the interest rate goes down, the risk is less, as well as they come up with a higher sort of loan amount. So it is something like, but for this, what happens is the fulfillment process is more rigid. Like the amount of number of documents requirement might be higher, the schedule of disbursement might vary, also conditions of disbursement, and more elaborate uh, underwriting process is in place, right? So this is what happens. But I think now the interesting problem is that the things that has been done with the unsecured loans, like how fast can we disburse the secured loan, that is the interesting problem that the industry has moved to. Okay, for example, let me pick up three problems for you, right? So one problem is, say, uh, person on this a salesperson who is actually doing the fulfillment, he might be on this on the street, and he might be visiting the customer and filling up the details, right? So previously, assume that this customer was writing down on paper. Now, how are we giving this information to the salesperson? Is it becoming more time consuming for him, or is it not? Right? Are we making this job easier for the salesperson to get those information? Are we scanning the data? Are we getting the data from other sources and fulfilling filling it up and asking the customer to validate? Right? So this is probably one problem that we need to solve. The second problem is, say, take example of a second problem, right? For example, validating the documents. Okay, so validating the documents is a operations heavy job. Okay, so the moment it goes to and it becomes a costly job in that sense, right? That
Yes.
every document has to be validated and all those things. So is there a way we can do it more easily, like doing a OCR to validate the documents, putting up and reducing the operation step by half, right? So all those things come into the picture. Or even for, say, if I take a problem like underwriting that model, right? So this is a third. If you take a third problem like underwriting, right? So underwriting probably will have a manual interface always because these are higher loan amounts, right? But can we reduce those manual intervention by half? Can the data gathering of preparing the loan credit appraisal memo be much be done? The maker action can be done, and probably the underwriter acts as a checker, and this it can be reduce the TAT of those processes also altogether, right? So these are the interesting problems that the industry is moving to, like, and also because um, RBI has realized that the the systemic risk has increased because of the disbursement of the unsecured loan by a huge margin, right? So they have actually pushing institutions that you have to increase your secured portfolio as well, and because and that is why all a lot of institutions are actually trying to do that at this moment. So this is how I look at the industry moving at this moment. And yeah, and probably one more thing, that say someone comes in with for example, is there an intermix between the unsecured and the secured? For example, someone comes and says that I need this unsecured loans. Can we uh, do out a model where we can say that customer, okay, this unsecured loan you are not eligible, but because of you have an asset, you can move on to a secured portfolio, right? You can get a secured loan. So those sort of intermixing of loans might also be a good problem statement that we start looking at. Yeah, I'm sure what to you.
That makes
Yeah.
proper sense, Debarshi, and thanks for marking down the differences between secured and unsecured loans on the basis of the collateral needed, the kind of people that are catered to, and the interest rates, and the very small nuances, and also the issues that are faced while dispersing these loans. You mentioned a lot of problem statements, right, which should be addressed, and I mean, which are very interesting as well. And you also mentioned MLNAI into that. So I kind of want to redirect that to Ashutosh. And I want to ask you, Ashutosh, you've seen you've seen a lot of digital journeys in lending. You've been with clients and helped with their unsecured lending journeys, digital journeys. Where do you see teams over engineering, and where do they tend to oversimplify? And how has, your experience been with these journeys, helping these customers with your embedded AI agents?
Thanks, Arushi. I think, uh, see, most of the time, what we do is we try to make our users' life easy, but in that thought process, we miss out on actually the core nitty-gritties of UX, right? So I'll give you one example which I have seen in the
Hmm.
market. What happened? There was a lender, and I was having just this chat. Uh, they were using DOB, date of birth. It was a drop down, right? And then what happened, they thought that drop down would be a little off. We should bring a new UX to this, and probably it might increase the the conversion, or like might decrease the drop off, right? Because mostly what we have seen is that people actually tend to drop off in DOV, right? Because it is divided into somewhere MMYY DDDDDD, somewhere DDYYYYY, right? So yeah, like a lot of people get confused in that aspect, right? So what product managers were actually testing, that how can we basically do something about this, right? And then they started over engineering, and a simple text input box works best, in my opinion, and I have seen working it in multiple areas instead of a lot. Because see, in India there are a lot of NTC user, new to credit user, and a lot of people are not that tech savvy, who will be able to like use a Apple like selectors or drop downs, right? So what we have seen, and even calendar is a very tricky thing for them to basically pick a date or some point of that place, right? So there has been a lot of engineering from the perspective of UX, but now that uh, most of these things are actually, because we have been building these workflows or digital workflows for a while now. So there is some standardization that has happened in the onboarding. So mostly, if I see now, almost all the lenders kind of use the same stack, kind of use the same uh, uh, pages, even KYC pages, number of steps, right? Everybody's trying to reduce that, right? So I think now we have reached a place, we have to understand how we can go beyond this, right? So is there a way I can basically reduce my drop off? Is there a way that probably I can comfort my customer? So these are some questions now getting into the conversation while I try to chat with my customers, right?
That's very interesting because eventually the goal of every lender, every fintech player, insurtech, NBFC, the goal is to improve the customer journey so that they become more, so the products become more sticky for them. It's easier to retain them. Um, Along these lines, Debarshi, I want to ask you one thing. So, a lot of organizations talk about customer journeys, but in practice, a lot of journeys are broken and at a lot of places. In your view, what makes a truly end-to-end customer experience in lending? And if we can also talk about a little about bringing AI into that experience, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I think I would say how I look at it is, or I will put it as different parts of the loan life cycle, right? So there are, if I think of it, what are the parts of a loan life cycle? Probably it is a lead management, then probably the onboarding journey that happens, then probably there is a fulfillment journey, sort of repayment, disbursement happens, and then it comes to the post disbursement scenarios like repayment, collections, and in the all this entire piece, I think there is uh, a customer support angle which comes into the picture, that a customer might reach out to the to us or to the lenders to sort out their things, right? So that is how I look at it now. Since you are talking about an end-to-end and journey, I think, yeah, that is the integrated system that I just spoke about, that these are the different types of the loan life cycle. You have to tie the loan life cycle together, but as a pure from a pure system design angle, right? I think this is more of a system design problem where which we can actually break it down into four parts. Okay, so the first part is probably that we are how does the customer reach a lender, or how does the customer actually reach a organization? So basically this is what we are saying as the omnichannel experience, or the anytime anywhere sort of scenario, that the customer is able to access through multiple channels. So that is the first thing. Now when you think of it, that he is able to come and ask or come to the lender at multiple stages of the journey whenever they need, these systems should talk to each other, right? So that is what it goes back to what we call as the integrated system, that there has to be a common system across the board wherever the customer comes, and it talks to them. So this is the second, what we call as the integrated systems. And if there is an integrated system, there will be only one source of truth, right? So that is the third principle. And the fourth principle is what we call as the different reporting and the analytics layer that comes into the picture. So these are the four principles on which where a system design comes into the picture. Now across the board, right, there is an end to end this journey comes means when we draw a journey at different parts of the journey, I think this is how it works. And if we talk about AIML again, um, is how good are we using the data at different place in the journey? For example, there is a risk uh, in the underwriting space. There is a huge scope of using statistical models and machine learning models. We still don't know what is the efficacy of using a language model, right? So no one is confident. So basically it is mainly using statistical and machine learning models. Even on the collection side, there is a lot of um, things that are done on the statistical and the machine learning models. Also, there is one place where I think language models are coming into the picture, and that is probably customer support, some part of the voice calling, and some part of collections as well on the intent, which are non front facing at this moment, but probably it gives a sort of insight to the uh, to the organizations or to the lender, that probably this is how what looking at the language or the what the customer is saying, this is probably the intent of the customer, and you can go after the customer in this area. So these are the three four places where I see, at least three places where I see there is the underwriting, second is the collection piece, third is customer support and lead management, right? So that is on the sales calling. So these are the three places where I see AI and ML coming in a big way. It has already been used for some time, but I think the language models are coming in a big way in at least in customer support part is what I look at.
No, I too agree there on Debarishi. I'll just interrupt here. I think there are two parts to it, just to uh, for the viewers to better understand it. I think Debarishi put it like very aptly there. So, like lenders have been using the predictive models, the uh, ML models for a while. Like they it, underwriting models have been built in this way, right? But now the Gen AI piece, because people are most interested is Gen AI. So I think language models are coming into conversational AI pieces such as customer support, as Devarishi said, and customer service life cycle overall, right? And even collections, because voice bots are being used now for collections purpose as well, right? How effective they are, that is a question, but still, like, early collections can be done through voice bots, right? And Another way is like, if there are like drop offs being happening in the onboarding, that we do, like, RevRag is specializing in that, right? And even sales, and as Devarishi said, sales life cycle, lead management of sort, right? So I think we have to look AI from two angles as well, because there is predictive models, ML, and the legacy AI, right? And now the new AI, which is Gen AI, generative AI, language models.
Yeah.
Ashutosh, just one thing along, what you just answered. So Devashi has worked in different uh, areas. He's worked in collections, underwriting, customer success, everywhere. So he knows how to connect these dots. From you, I want to understand is that, you've uh, worked across lead qualification, onboarding, and React activation, the whole spectrum of a customer. Um, what's one thing that you've learned about connecting these three journeys using AI?
So I think interesting question. Specifically, what I have, like, it's first of all, the journey starts with basically the onboarding piece, right? Like acquisition of a lead, which is mostly responsible for marketing, or if it is basically uh, if it's a like if it's an already existing customer, then it will be already, like, you have already spent dollars on that, right? So if it's new lead, then probably coming from an acquisition angle, right? And then onboarding. So onboarding is something, I think, which is uh, like, it is a revenue generator, right? So people, there are, what I've seen, like, people pay really good attention, and there are teams allocated to it, right? And like, if you and even when we were building fintech, there was a lot of experiments that we were doing in onboarding, right? Because onboarding really matters, because you are actually losing a lot of customers while you are onboarding new customers, right? So there are there are huge drop offs that happen, and you have to, like, figure out why drop offs are happening, and you have to fill that void, right? So there is one thing I have seen, that onboarding is the most experimented area in any company overall in the customer life cycle. And then there are, like, reactivation. of a customer. Again, a lot of experimentation goes into how can I reactivate a customer. Is there a way I can throw some discounts? Is there a way I can do something, right? Then there are experiments being done from that angle. Then in lending, there has been multiple experiments done in collections, because lending is most about like their risk and collections, right? Because it matters a lot how the risk is there, and are you able to collect the money or not. So for lenders, it matters that okay, how my risk team is performing, and how are my collections, right? And what I am seeing today is that lenders are now open to, and this probably Devrishi knows well than me, like lenders are much more aware and are experimenting new ways to improve their risk models as well, right? With language model, right? So there is experimentation now opening up in even underwriting models, right? So and about customer support, I think customer support is a place where there is larger interaction with customers, but less of experimentation, because it's like if something is working, let it be there. Do not like try to do a lot of experimentation there, right? So I would say, so just to conclude, I think I've seen from a experimentation point of view, uh, onboarding, reactivation, collections, and even now risk is opening up to a lot of experimentation.
I really found interesting how you mentioned the three stages: onboarding, reactivation, and so how you said that at different stages you can experiment differently, and at customer success you experiment the least, even though it's customer facing. Um, Along these lines, I just want to talk a bit about now that we spoke about different stages, I want to talk a bit about scale. So Devashi, I want to ask you. You again, you were one of the first builders at Credit Saison when they came into India, and you know a lot about building those products from scratch. So when you're building a journey that has to handle thousands of users, what does scale readiness mean to you? And at what point of building products do you start thinking about automation, orchestration, or intelligence?
Yeah, hi, Arushi. So I think uh, means in we are talking about scale readiness, right? So scale readiness actually is a way in which a product or organization is able to handle a significant increase in demand or usage or complexity without breaking down in the experience, right? Which is already there, and probably improving the efficiency and the quality. So that is what I understand by a scale readiness, right? So now probably after the organization realizes that it has hit a certain amount of volume, right? That is where the start thinking about that what do we do with this product. So the next space that they want to go with this product is scale, right? So they that is where they look at the white spaces sort of thing, right? So scale, and probably they have solved the journey problem. Now they want to the scale up, right? So that is what happens. Now we can think about scale in probably four dimensions. The moment we go into that space where we realize that now the product is the journey has been validated, we have been able to resolve the journey, it is a smooth journey, everyone is aligned, we want to hit it now. So there are four areas in which it is looked at. The first area is probably a technology price. So basically, did we actually do a scalable design, or even if we had done just a basic design, we will have to go ahead and do a scalable design. Are we using the right infrastructure? Are we using robust databases? Is there a performance optimization, load balancing? Is there monitoring, alerting, retries, self-healing? All those things are those things in place from technology perspective, right? The second thing is the from a business perspective, right? It comes down to the operational efficiencies. So is it like am I in a position to automate repetitive tasks? Am I able to uh, hit 100x the volume with the same sort of um, people in the floor, right? So that is probably, if I think of it in very raw term, that with the same amount of people, can I hit 100x volume? So that is what, then how do we do it? We figure out what are the repetitive things that they do. We say that, okay, these are, I will take care of this. You just take care of the things which are very niche. So that is how the thing happens. And uh, this third part, second, the other part to this operational process is also, is there a very well defined incident management in place when we hit scale? The There is one angle to it, is on the financial model, right? So basically the financial considerations are like, if I'm starting to scale, is there a cost angle benefit that I'm looking at? And even if there is a cost benefit, the other thing that has to be looked at very deeply is, does the business model support it? So if a business model needs a people heavy process, then, because probably it gives that edge, then probably it has to be a people heavy process. Otherwise, the business model has to support that scale as well. This is the other part, and all the regulatory compliances things has to be taken care. And yeah, when we hit scale, uh, means the moment probably there were, we say, there was a journey where we said that, okay, for the MVP, let handle some of the things offline. But the moment we say that we hit scale, we have to be make sure that the data governance in place, all the data is looking very nicely, all the data is in place. We can't be having a small problem and we hit 100, then it becomes a 100x problem, right? So those things has to looked at very closely the moment we say that we hit scale. So and we have to tick mark all these boxes, saying that, okay, as we are scaling, are we taking care of all of this as we go along? Yeah. Arushi.
Just a follow question, Debarshi. While we are talking about scaling, can I also bring in how India as a country is so different, and there are so many different layers to the way users react in different cities, if we talk about tier one, two, three cities. So, are there any nuances that you've observed over these years building these financial products? These nuances about users in these different cities?
Yeah, so I think Arushi, the some of the products are built very much for urban, but probably what we say, Bharat is the place where we do scaling, right? So basically we go to tier three cities, and then we take those products, and that is where probably the growth happens. But I think one place that we have to understand is that both these cities, means the, even a very simple thing like definition of the city demography comes with something like a unique needs of the customer, right? For example, a tier one person might still want to get a novel product. A tier two or person might not even need that, right? They would say that, just solve the problem. I am just looking at a simple problem to solve. Uh, just go and solve that problem. What might even happen is that in the tier one, if there are people who doesn't really, are not very community oriented, but in tier two it might be people, there might be people who lives in their own colonies, right? They are community oriented, they have a friend circle. So basically, those validations also comes differently from different perspective, right? So these are probably a unique needs problem. The second thing that might happen is the level of technology literacy, right? So in tier one problem, in tier one probably a lot of people are technologically advanced. In tier two, they might need a lot of hand holding. So also, not only that, probably in the what is the device that we are going after, right? So it might be uh, in tier two cities, it might be people relying on feature phones and older smartphones. In tier one, it might be people relying with more modern smartphones. It's something even as simple as that. But it makes a hell lot of difference the moment we start rolling out products and going after features. Probably in tier one city, people know, looking at different systems, they know that how to work out an app. In tier two cities, there might be assistance needed, even there might be assisted journeys that are needed when we try to do out a journey, loan journey. Right. So this is the second thing. Also, we have to take care of infrastructure issues in the different places. For example, in the tier one cities, the speed of internet might be very high. right? In tier 2 cities, the speed of internet might be low. There might be unreliable power supply also, right? And probably when we deliver a physical product, there might be the reaching out to remote areas might also be different, right? So these are the infrastructure things that has to be kept into picture. And I think one more very important thing is that the economic considerations that is to be taken into the picture. One is probably the affordability, what is the income level, what is the value proposition that we are bringing to both the parties, people in tier 1, people in tier 2. So those are the things that has driven probably even transaction in digital, people transacting in digital currencies. For example, people transacting in UPI might be higher in urban areas versus in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. Something like this also has to happen. And one thing is that there might be cultural considerations also. What might work in tier 1, uh, there might be sensitivities to it in tier 2, right? So all those things has to be taken care. So when products are launched and worked out in tier 2, there are very dedicated focus that comes from there. From the focus might even have to come from the ground, that the feedback has to come from the ground. What is working out, people who have worked on the ground, they might be the best persons who to give those feedback to this product. And this is how this is generally built out.
That was a very, very nuanced answer, Debarshi. Thanks a lot for talking about these differences between, people in these cities. You mentioned about the infrastructure and the economic aspects of it, right? I'm sure a lot of advancement has been there in terms of infrastructure, but we still have a long way to go to kind of narrow down that difference between the cities. Along these lines, I have a question for you, Ashutosh. Um, you worked with clients using voice AI agents, right, across different languages because the AI agents are multilingual. Um, according uh, according to your perspective, what's still unresolved in intelligent interactions beyond tier one cities, or if anything is under progress? I'm asking this because you work with clients who have distributed their products, financial products in different cities. So I would really want to understand your perspective on this.
So, no, thanks. I think so. There are two parts to it, right? One is basically we have to understand where the technology is first. Even though we think that AI is there, but we need to understand will will AI be able to solve emotional quotient as well for a lot of customers. So, and Devrishi can correct me if I'm wrong. So, there are a lot of tier two customer which, like, whenever you call them or basically whenever you have a chat with them, they shout while you are talking to them, right? And they don't understand, they don't get context of a lot of things. So uh, you not just multilinguality is the problem. There are multiple level of speech related problems, right? And as of now we know that LLMs only understand text, right? So there is a text that is getting convert voice v speech getting converted into text, and then text getting converted into speech, right? So that is how voice models actually work, right? So and that is how voice agents actually work, right? So what I am seeing is that, and there is a very important and high need of a speech to speech model that I think will be able to like solve a lot of problems that today currently voice agents are actually facing. Is that if I shout at a agent is not able to understand very vividly that okay, that customer said yes in a hyper way, not uh, not a yes was a intent yes, but it was a sarcastic yes, right? So sarcasm and many other emotions are still like being worked upon. I think this is something that AI still lags and AI still lacks, right? uh, so I think these are some things that I would say we are still like we have a path to reach there. But multilinguality is something that is almost solved, right? I think 90-95% it is already solved. It's just that human like conversation, human like voices needs to be like uh, made available to a lot of people there, right? So I think it is already there. So voice, I'm really excited about speech to speech models coming in and changing the way that voice agents actually interact with a lot of tier 2 tier 3 cities customers as well. Because see, tier 1 customer is a sophisticated customer. He will not basically play with you majorly, right? Like as in play with you when I say is will be able to even talk to you in English, right? And English is pretty much the language of LLMs, right? So I think yeah, this is something that I see. And other pointer would be that uh, like getting super intelligence for all of these AI agents, right? They are getting a lot of context. They have their own uh, like memory is also deployed, and all the things working together, and then basically these agents are getting deployed. I think we are 90% ish there. There is still 10%, 10 to 5 or 5 to 10% actually. We need to still reach there. But yeah, even 90% is still really very cool. Because uh, why I would say that is because see, and Devrishi again can correct me if I'm wrong, that mostly uh, if you want to expand in India today, right? Let's say you want to expand in India, you need to have multilinguality, right? And uh, and you need to support those languages, because people in India actually are, they don't understand English, they don't understand even Hindi, right? So you have to support it any which way. So if you are building, you need to hire those people. So so it is a complex problem, right? And you need to hit conversions as well, right? So I think this is something 90% has been able to solve so far, right? But I think emotional quotient and other things are still left, and most probably in a year down the line we'll see a lot more happening. Every day there are state changes come in, right? In AI. So that's my take.
No, rightly so. I mean, India in itself is a very complex country with so many new complex languages coming in day by day, and a lot of you know a lot of
No,
work is going into kind
I
of
think I remember. I remember.
tackling this issue.
So I attended Bajaj Innovation. Uh, it was BFL. Uh, so I was like, we were selected. RevRag was selected, and CIO of Bajaj said the most complex problem you can get on this earth is in India to solve problems of multilinguality, right? China has Mandarin, right? In US has one language to solve. India, on the other hand, man, like massive languages, different type of accents, different type of people, different type of cultures. I think it is a massive problem to solve.
No, agreed. It's really fascinating to see people coming up with different solution, and everybody's trying to make the best out of AI to tackle this. So it's really exciting to see new efforts and new solutions every day. Um, I mean, I would just like to bring to the point that we are kind of closer to the end of this episode. But before we come to the exact end of this episode, I want to ask a very simple question to the both of you. I'll start with Debarshi. Um, Debarshi, in your view, what is one common myth about AI that product teams still believe in?
Yeah, so I think some part Ashutosh already said, right? I think I don't know if it is a product team or everyone. Everyone thinks that AI is a magic bullet, right? So it is not a
Mhm.
magic bullet. So if means it the moment we say that AI is a magic bullet, it comes to the point that it can do everything and nothing else is right. But the problem is the moment we say that, it becomes very over ambitious. We have we underestimate the data requirements, we underestimate even the human expertise, right? Human, the nuances that human brings in. And we say that AI is a is the magic bullet. We are actually saying that the solution takes priority over the problem, right? So that is we think the technology will solve everything. So I think that is what and flawless result and everything will come into the picture. I think that misconception will often lead to wrong solutions. So probably we have to take the problem by its head, and then we say that okay, can AI solve that problem, right? And then iterate and move ahead. Like Ashutosh said that 90%, reaching 90% is a huge success, right? And in some cases, probably we wouldn't even reach 90%, right? We would reach 50%. But then we would go on iterating and probably at some point reach 90%. Or that might not be even possible. So I think that is one thing that we should take guard ourselves against when we start using AI in our day-to-day activities. Yeah.
No, I loved the piece. We are putting solution uh, over problem, right? I think that is a like maximizing solution instead of problem. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think that is a perfect answer to the myth thing that we are going through currently.
Any point that you would want to add to it, Ashutosh, or is that the answer that you were kind
I
of
think yeah,
going to give as
mostly
well?
this is no, no. I think so. I when I talk to a lot of our clients or prospects, I tell them that see, technology is actually here, right? But your expectations are here, right? So you have to first of all understand where the
Hmm.
technology is and what are you able to achieve, like, and what will you be able to achieve. So one thing that I explain everyone is that AI is not good in convincing, as Debarshi put it correctly, that there is human quotient that is present, right? You can't replace a human. He like you you can in certain areas, right? But uh, what I'm trying to tell you is that uh, AI might be good in qualification. AI might be good in, let's say, training. AI might be good in uh, consultative selling, but AI can't sell as your best salesman today. If you basically have him, right? uh, AI can't sell the way that a best salesman can do. AI can't become a person niche, like you can't like very rightly personify uh, AI, right? It is still time for us. I think 3 to 4 years of time. I guess, in my opinion, right, to get that stage of super intelligence, and that too will basically have certain nuances to it, right? So I think yeah, there.
Totally. And I mean, that is what our goal is, right? Through these episodes, to kind of explain to people where we actually are with AI, where the tech is right now, which direction it is going into, and what issues we are facing, which everybody is trying to fix today. So, I mean, that's what, our goal has always been. So we all spoke about, Devashi's experience in building products from scratch in the past 7, 8 years, what he has built. We spoke about the nuances in the products, especially unsecured and secured. We spoke about how there are these differences in the cities, and Ashutosh also helped us understand how voice can contribute to how implementing AI agents using multilingual voice can kind of help bring that gap closer. So that's all about it. And I mean, thanks a lot, Devarshi, for coming in today and talking a lot about your journey and helping us understand these financial products and scaling these products. And thanks a lot, Ashutosh, for bringing in the tech perspective around how you are helping these companies build, better customer journeys with your AI agents. Thanks a lot to the both of you. And to all the viewers, thanks a lot who come and, watch these episodes and come up with doubts. I mean, our goal has always been clear from day one to talk about AI, talk about financial products, break all the misunderstandings, and talk about the nuances which a lot of people don't talk about. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you in the next episode, which is next Thursday. So yes, that's all. Thank you, Debarshi. Thank you, Ashutosh.
Yeah, thank you, Arush. Thank you, Ashutosh.
Thanks, Debarishi. It was interesting. Thank you so much for joining in. Thanks, Harushi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.